Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Strategy International podcast. Thank you for tuning in once again. For those who don't know or that are here for the first time, Strategy International is, of course, a global think tank that brings together experts from all over the world discussing issues related to international politics and policy, security and defense, technology, environment, and much, much more. We're dealing with experts from all over the world that bring a wealth of knowledge to this global think tank. Speaking of experts, we have two today. This is the first time we have two guests on, and very happy that we have them both to share their knowledge with us as well. We have Professor Dusko Tomic and Professor Eldar Saljic, both senior consultants here at Strategy International. Professor Tomic is a senior consultant with respect to risk and energy management, emergency management, and national security. Over 20 years experience in the area of disaster risk prevention and risk management of emergency situations, member of the Commercial Crime Bureau of London, member of International Police Association. Professor Eldar Saljic, also a senior consultant at Strategy International with respect to criminal justice and security, a criminologist specializing in policing, security, as well as terrorism, has published books on terrorism and security. We're going to have a great discussion today. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. So welcome.
Thank you for your calling.
Thank you very much, and we are happy to be with you in this, your great idea to make all those podcasting.
It's a great initiative. We're doing well, and we're getting a lot of feedback from different people and from all over the world, which is fascinating to see. I mean, I'm in Canada, and you guys are in Dubai, and it's great that we can connect this way and just have discussions on a number of topics. And for everyone interested, you can visit Strategy International at strategyinternational.org for further information on Strategy International, as well as some very interesting editorial pieces that have been published, including one that has been written by both of you. With respect to the conflict that is happening in Eastern Europe, we've had many guests on the podcast with whom we've discussed this matter, and I'd like to pick your brain as well, just to see the different aspects that you can bring to the discussion with respect to the expertise you have in domestic security. Ukraine and Russia is quite particular because, and from the discussions that we've had with previous guests, even though everyone kind of expected this conflict to happen because of the mounting tensions that have been ongoing for a number of years, there have been many that have thought that on a sociological aspect, it was completely unimaginable to have Ukrainians fighting with Russians because of the similarities of these both nations. I'd love to have your take on this conflict and how you've been analyzing the situation over the last year.
I think that you will start first with me, am I right?
Sure, go ahead. Anyone who wants to answer.
Okay. First of all, I think this kind of the conflict is result of one of the biggest hybrid warfare what we have in the past. And this kind of hybrid warfare have his culmination with annexion of Crimea, And after that, all these things are going faster because geopolitically situation are totally start to develop and to be changed like in the past. Understand? First of all, we didn't have a weakness of Soviet Union. We have very strong opponent of policy of United States, which is in role of Russia. Russia is very close with the China, and these two countries will make all these kind of differences what we have in the past. And we need to accept these kind of changes in the global moment. But of course, with huge respect that also the United States have a leading position. We understand that. My opinion is that always European, when they follow the idea of Brzezinski, that you need to go to, if you want to have a control under the Russia, you need to go to the borderline between Russia and Ukraine, or Russia and potentially Poland or something like that. This is kind of always which they make kind of wrong perspective. If you want to keep Russia, you need to go from the soft line. Soft line of Russia is in Asia. Not soft line of Russia is not in Europe. Always they will protect the way to Europe. Always that will be a kind of totally defense. And when you have totally defense, everything is possible to expect. Maybe to use every kind of the weapons, every kind of strategy, every kind of movement. And I think this kind of, how they call on one side special operation, but I will say aggression, not special operation aggression, because they attack on the sovereignty of Ukraine. And this is kind of the war, and this is against the international law and against the rules in United Nations. And of course, everything what was happening in Ukraine will affect the global situation in the other countries. But always, when we want to speak about Ukraine, we need to always to see the global pictures, because all the process on the world is in a specific process of the moment. Look at the Latin America. With the wrong policy in Venezuela, they lose the Venezuela. Venezuela is across the line with Colombia. And Colombia is now in winning situation is Petrus. Petrus totally changed the policy of Colombia. Very close to Colombia is now, for example, Brazil. Brazil also coming with Lula on the new position and start to be very close in the BRICS like in the past years. And potentially, maybe they will continue this activity with Argentina, because Argentina always have freezing conflict by Maldives and Falklands with Great Britain. They will start to increase the fire in all the other regions. But if you will go to Asia, you must see the strong soft power what they produce. China is now with Russia in progressive activity in Africa, for example. And if you will, always in Europe and in North America, we're thinking about Europe, we will lose the picture in the other part of the world. Especially, we will lose the picture, for example, in Africa. For example, China have very special agreement with Djibouti. I think that you heard about that. Mm-hmm. In that agreement with Djibouti, China already have possibility to use Djibouti like their port, but not only like a port for the ships. They use Djibouti like naval basis for all military ships and all submarines. If you have something on strategic point, what is on the Horn of Africa, means that you will control Suez Channel on left side, and to control the Indian Ocean on the second side. What means you will go out of China seas and you will come to Pacific and to Indian Sea. This is something what is on strategical level potentially will be something what will change our focus and our opinion. This is the reason maybe I'm going too long to express some things, but I think that all the strategies are not use the complete picture what we have now in the world, only one sequence, what means Ukraine and Russia. Mm-hmm. you want to speak, so this kind of the problems, you need to have whole picture, and after that to see the sequence, because not forget, there are on the other side is very potentially very strong what I will say enemy, if we will call him enemy, or if we will call the president of the Russia, because don't forget that he is a former intelligence officer.
Mhm.
What means every time when intelligence officers are coming in kind of preparation, always they receive enough and quite good information for every single place when he want to attack. That was story from Zhukov. That was the story from the other Soviet generals, which they use this kind of tactic when they want to attack. The Kursk battle, they win in that battle because they have better intelligence information and time, and they need to attack and to win in that victory, in that battle.
It's very interesting the approach you're taking, where, if I understand correctly, if there had been an approach basically to create better links with Asia, perhaps the approach with Russia would have been different, rather than to have a direct conflict with Ukraine. But from what we're seeing, though, the doors have also been very closed with Asia, especially with China and with the Western world. We're seeing very, recently with all the negotiations around the South Pacific Partnership that is happening, where all the countries there have partnered up to kind of seclude China and to find themselves a way of controlling that region with the influence of the U.S. So we're seeing again a door close on that front as well. How possible do you think that would have been to kind of try to appease China into influencing Russia into quieting down its activities in Eastern Europe?
The role of China will be, I think, progressive in the day which they will coming. First of all, because China is the biggest trade deliverer, or we say the trade partner with the United States. Daily they have exchange of all single potential materials in amount of $3 billion. What means around the year the exchange in process between these two countries around $1 trillion. What means China have very strong involvement in all kind of decisions what is related with the United States. And for United States, China is the biggest potential problem in the future than Russia. But China in this moment have this kind of possibility to negotiate and cooperate with Russia, because both of them are members of the BRICS. And secondly, they are very close in relations with several things. China is one of the biggest buyer of gas and oil from Russia, and also China is one of the biggest buyer of weapons from Russia, because all Chinese tanks, they're using Armada platform. What is the new platform of modern tanks? M90 Russian modern tanks. And they cooperate also in this kind of missile systems, because only these two countries, they have very fast hypersonic missile systems now in the world. And also they cooperate in the other things, especially in developing new drones and the other activity what is related with them. And don't forget that China is kind of proxy country if we will see the problems with Iran, because Iran and China, they have very progressive cooperation. For example, maybe you didn't know that the gold from Venezuela, which they produce in Venezuela, the biggest buyer is Turkey. Turkey sell this gold to Iran. This gold are not finished in Iran. This gold are finished in China. Mm-hmm. In vice versa, they receive engine machine for the missile system which they have in Iran now. What means, as usual, like in the past, China have now very specific and dominant role, and China wants to show their soft and also their hard power, but China played the game now with the soft power. In that way, when we speak about the soft power, you must know that the main platform in Russia now is not iPhone platform. The main platform is Huawei platform. That means you understand that these two countries, if you want to have Huawei platform in your country, means that you want to have close relations with this country. And everything what is related with relations with the China, especially with Putin and Xi, is related to have good cooperation, but not significant cooperations for the others. This kind of cooperation will be potentially covered on intelligence and government level, and they don't want to show too much to news, to media system, how they cooperate, but they work very hard, and this kind of work is really close, and this is something what we really need to analyze and to have like elements to analyze if we want to understand the global security situation.
Eldar, just a question for you, because I mean, we're seeing this partnership obviously with Russia and Asia, not necessarily with China. Obviously, China being the biggest partner there, but there's other countries as well. India also took a more neutral position in this conflict, and they have an equal role to play in that situation as well. But we're seeing that all these sanctions that the West imposed, thinking that it would have a significant impact on Russia, we're not really seeing it unless we're seeing it very little, because Russia just turned around and continue doing business as usual with other bigger economies, and it feels more like Europe has been suffering than Russia, especially on the energy front and in other technologies as well. How do you see this conflict kind of evolving? I mean, most of the experts we've spoken with think that this is going to take a very long time. Of course, the questions on whether or not Ukraine will be able to sustain the conflict, I mean, nobody really knows. But from from the perspective of global relations, East versus West, are we in a much more difficult situation than we had initially thought a year ago?
Don't forget that these things are not happening ad hoc, and Russia did not make decision to attack on Ukraine by night. So definitely they had a strategy. They prepared this a long time ago, and they get ready. They know that they will be imposed on different types of sanctions. Yes, completely agree with you that they are not presenting that they are suffering, and this is the part of the strategy. If you present, if you show the people that you are suffering from different type of sanctions, so the morality and the all those things that they are planning definitely will not succeed. Yes, I think that they are suffering with, and they give them a huge impact, but again they very well calculated, and they're very well ready for those kind of negative actions from Europe and United States related to the sanctions. As the part of their strategy, definitely part of their negotiation with Europe and with other countries, and as you mentioned, is with India and and China. So they had a long time ago idea what they will do, and how they will do, and I think they are very, very well prepared prepared for those sanctions and those any actions against them. Creating the BRICS and making the BRICS to be functional and to deliver the fruits. This is one of their strategy, and definitely now they are using the benefits of creation and supporting the BRICS. Don't forget that during the creation of the BRICS, China was not a superpower country. Now we have an India, and we have the China becoming the superpower country, and they established a good relation with Russia. So if you from perspective of Ukraine, definitely they are suffering. All of us, we are suffering due this conflict, due this issue, and every single country is suffering from different perspectives. The question is how much we are ready, how much we get prepared for this, and how much we are prepared for the future steps. So for these things, definitely we need to use, we need to analyze, but I think that only good intelligence agencies are aware what's really happening in the field and what's going to happen in the future. So definitely Russians are ready for this, and they have some negative impacts, but they are calculated, and even they will lose maybe in some part, but they are trying to get benefits in the battle or creating another alliances with other countries and opening new topics.
There's another element in this conflict that has surfaced, which is Turkey. And we're seeing the very delicate position that Turkey is in because they are the connection between East and West. They are the country that has obviously links with the Western world as a NATO member, but also very close with its Asian allies. And there's been a lot of discussion now about the enlargement of NATO with Finland and Sweden and Norway, Sweden, I think, and the role that Turkey has played in this.
Sweden and Finland.
And Finland, yeah, and the role that Turkey is playing in this situation, to the point where we're at a stalemate. Because of that one country and the request that this one country has. And a lot of experts are arguing that there's a direct link with the conflict and the relations that Turkey has with Russia, and that has definitely shaken the ground on which NATO wants to certainly continue developing in Europe. What do you think of this situation?
This question for me or Professor?
Yeah, Eldar. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Eldar.
Okay. I think that the Turkey is playing very well now. They are very well organized, and they are working on increasing their power. So they are playing during this conflict, and they are really aware that they can have benefits. So as you mentioned, Turkey as a NATO member country is in very good relation with Russia. We have from another side European Union and United States, all NATO members country that they are not in good relations. So they are using that. The Turkey time is now to get their benefits. Maybe they are aware, and they are using this in creating different in implementation of different strategies. Professor Dusko maybe can more give inputs because it is his field.
Yeah, Dusko, what do you think of this? And I mean, this is not new. I mean, Turkey's role in the last maybe 10 years, I would say probably from the beginning of the conflict in Syria, has been pivotal in making that link with Europe. And I want to talk to you a little bit about migration afterwards. But again, Turkey is at the forefront of this issue as well. How do you feel about this this evolution with respect to Turkey's relations? Do you think that NATO is at risk right now because of what's happening in Turkey and the positions that Turkey is taking, or do you not think that it's ever possible for NATO to kind of seclude Turkey, because that would just mean the end of NATO?
First of all, you must know that Turkey only have one goal. Turkey only is thinking about Turkey, nobody about They don't have to think about anything else. They're only thinking about their goals and their interest. In this case, first of all, one big mistake in 2016, when was CAP against Erdogan.
Mhm.
I think this wrong decision of State Secretary Kerry make this kind of, I will say, disappoint agreement between the United States and Turkey in that time, and Turkey was from 2016 very close with Russia, and this is the fact. Also, they start to invest too much in this kind of Turkish pipeline. And when they start to invest in Turkish pipeline, the interest of Turkey increase. After that, they support this kind of the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, because only benefit from Nagorno-Karabakh, they didn't have these two both countries. They only benefit they will have for the transport of the energy will have Turkey. What means Turkey are playing the games what is always related with Turkey. These two countries, especially Sweden, are recognized from Turkey that they support Kurdish Revolutionary Party, and this is the main things why they make this kind of disagreement for the Sweden to be the member of the NATO. And also, these things about burning the holy book Quran, what was happening in Sweden, also make this kind of conflict between Sweden and Turkey to increase. To be honest, I will not go deeply because I don't have enough information, but if this information will be significant with that, that some the other countries, they have interest to explore this kind of disagreement. Maybe we will have answer on your question what you already make. I do not believe that NATO will losing the power, but some things in NATO needs to be reconstructing. And already NATO makes some kind of the movement. For example, the bases from Ilgirlik now they sent to Constanța in Romania. And if you ask why they said that, of course, Romania is very close to Russia and Ukraine, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, when you have activity against the ISIS and Daesh in this region, Ilgirlik was very good basis for the NATO for all this kind of activity against these terrorist activities and so on and so on. But Turkey wants to be one of the biggest supplier of the gas in the future. And this is the reason why they start to make this kind of movement to the Bulgaria. And now they start to make this kind of the new connector, which they will receive the gas from Bulgaria. Bulgaria will receive the gas from Greece and from Turkey. What means they will start to go to make kind of diversification, to be important for diversification of the energy policy of Europe on one side, and also they start to collected, collected all the countries which are members of the former Ozgud family, or Ozgud Turks, or Ozgud Turkey in the past. What means all these countries like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, all these countries, they start to collect it to be like one power in the future. Turkey, how I mentioned from beginning, only started thinking about the issue of Turkey. Yes, about migrants, they have 3 million migrants on the borderline with Syria. This is a huge problem. this kind of the migrants, Eldar will explain better in way of terrorism and an organized crime, are on a road to the Europe. But basically, did you know who make first biometric evidence of all these migrants?
Who was it?
Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
Serbia Secret Intelligence Service and Serbian police, they make first evidence, biometrical evidence of all migrants which they come to the Europe. This kind of evidence, for example, show many potential informations for all the other activities, what was happened after that. For example, in terrorist attack in France, all the evidence of the people which they make this kind of terroristic attack are related with the people which they cross the line of Serbia and come to Europe. But Serbia in that moment shared this kind of information with the Frontex, Interpol, and Europol. What means all security organizations, the police organization, in this moment they have similar and same information what they have security system in Serbia. What means if Europe wants to have a better security system and needs to have what we will say similar and stable security policy. Stable security policy means exchanging informations, intelligence cooperation, and the many other things. And they need to have same strategy. For example, some people which are on the red list of Interpol, for example, for one country, are freedom citizen for the other countries. This kind of politics they need to change, and they need to make what I always want to say, the policy of the balance. The policy of the balance is something what is necessary to be in the Europe. If we will see only on one eyes and we will close one eyes, we will not have whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
This is the huge problem, and Eldar will explain this kind of relations with the terrorism and organized crime, how they use refugees in all these activities, because this is his expertise.
Yeah, Eldar, I want to discuss this because we've been seeing this ever since the beginning of the conflict in Syria, and how Turkey has been at times blamed for instrumentalizing these migrants to benefit from different negotiations with the European Union. We're seeing all these illegal or irregular migrations happening through Greece or through Italy, mostly through Greece. How are the rest of the European countries preparing for this migration? Because obviously within these waves of migrants, we can assume that there are terrorist pockets. But obviously, in addition to that, there are just innocent people looking for a different life, right? They're fleeing a war-torn country, and they're looking for a better life, like we've seen in other years happening before that, in other conflicts throughout history. Essentially, everyone is going into Europe. Is Europe prepared for this, both on a demographic aspect, if we're considering these people as new citizens, but also from security aspect, if we're considering that there are pockets within these migrants that are there for other reasons, whether they're terrorists or they're implanted for other purposes? How is Europe preparing for this?
Yeah, a good question. Look at this migration for us and for planet, for countries is not something that is not unfamiliar. We are very familiar, and migrations are happening before, happening now, and will happen tomorrow and in the future. So we need to make difference between two types of migration. First of all, everyone to understand we have legal migration and we have illegal migration and forced migration. So there are these types we need to clarify. Legal migration, all of us, we are part of some legal migration. We are looking for new jobs, we are looking for better life, etc. But again, each of those types of migration should be analyzed from different perspectives. So every single country, every single security system, every single government should be prepared for this kind of movement, because people are, if you compare from 1950s to 2023, the population on world population increased that maybe that for 2 or 3 billions. So that's meaning that we having more people, and the migration are necessary. So if we analyzing legal migration, so this is more easy for the countries. You know, you go through the legal channel, you're moving, there is security check, everything is different, and the country can be sure where are you, what kind of jobs you can have, etc., etc. When we discuss about illegal migration, this we are coming to the challenge. So enforced migration. So I will be focused now on your question regarding from Syria, from Libya, from all those, from Afghanistan, from all those countries, Iraq, that are moving illegally or by force to some another country. Analyzing international law, definitely we recognize this term, because we need to give them the shelter. And as you saw, that most countries are really happy to have them, but now they use them as a tool. What I'm meaning when I say tool, like when you mentioned Turkey used them as a tool to negotiate with European Union, to use some benefits, to get some money and benefits for you in them inside of Turkey, in Syria, and through the relation of European Union. What kind of challenges we are facing now? So you have those people who are moving from one country to another. As you say, a lot of them are innocent people. They are just there looking for new, better life, new opportunities, shelter, etc. So as per international law, we need to give them, we need to support them. How much we are ready? I don't think so that we are so super ready and prepared for this much number of people that they are just coming to us. So that was one of the reasons why European Union on that time had facing with some challenges, and they're starting to use the countries who are outside of the European Union on the borders, for example, Serbia, and they are supporting Serbia in getting those people and filtering those people. So to with which reason? To identify all those people that are coming there. So identification is one of the crucial elements. Why? Because this open another Pandora box. This open Pandora box regarding the people who are terrorists, who are willing to move from one place to another place, or they are organized. So they are using this as an opportunity to go from one place to another place, to avoid this kind of identification through the legal channels, you know, because there are a lot of people, a lot of terrorist groups, terrorist organizations, or criminals who are wanted by Interpol, Europol, and all other police organizations. So this is another challenge. So we can analyze this from economical perspective, how much the country in Europe are ready to accept all those people. This is one challenge. Mm-hmm. So how much we can give them, how much we afford to accept them. Analyzing European Union, we can see that European Union are losing population. So Germany especially, so they are open, they are looking for new young generation, so they want to keep them there, and other countries. Regarding the security perspective, this is the big challenge. You are accepting different type of people, and don't forget they are coming from the conflict, from the wars. So they are trained. Maybe some of them, they are very well trained. So you are accepting some people, and if you don't organize good security system that you will follow them, you will put surveillance on them, that to be sure that those people are really came in good and in positive manner, in health, and in good. And another, you have people who are there as criminals or terrorists. And don't forget, we're opening the box of human trafficking. So this is also the channel for human trafficking. You know that human trafficking is the third largest organized crime, and they had now open roads so that for using the using any type, any modus operandi or any type of human trafficking. What Professor Dusko, why mentioned, and good that he mentioned that system of a registration of all those people. So using this kind of eye scanning and fingerprint scanning and etc. Why? Because a lot of them who are members of terrorist groups or criminal organizations, they have fake passports, or they have a real passport with fake another picture. So when you receive all those people with the same faces for European and police officers, it's very difficult to do face-to-face recognition, say, no, this is not your picture, etc. So biometrical recognition, biometrical identification was one of the first steps that European Union decided to do. And as you saw, they put the borders in Serbia, in Greece, and in Bulgaria. So they have some filters. So just with the purpose to reduce the level of possibility that someone skipped that. Definitely, yes. Definitely, they failed. You cannot protect 100% because we speak about millions of people who are moving from one side from another side. And I will finish with this. So on another side, you have illegal migration. So people who are moving illegal, but using their own channel. So not those channels that they are organized, So not this tunnel. So they are using another channels. So they are entering in your country and they are not registered. Those people are people who are who have the money, who can survive, or people who are facing with who are there without money. So who is now who have the challenge? The country that they are entering. So why? Because if they are not willing to register, they will start to do some crimes. Am I right? So they will start to do some crimes because they will need to survive. So, and in Serbia, we are facing with a lot of crimes that are crimes related to the stealing properties, some small robberies, and etc. And this is the challenge. So this is also the big challenge. And the last thing what I want to mention, they're creating their own subculture. They're starting to be closed. So they're closing their cycle. So we need to open them. We need to give them a chance to assimilate, to enter in the system.
It's interesting that you bring it up because it leads me into the next question I have. From a political perspective now, so you have millions of displaced people traveling throughout Europe. How will that change the political context in these countries with respect to these to this wave of people going into these different countries? And there are experts that are thinking that politically there may be a shift in Europe where maybe societies may not be that accepting, and that will affect the political stance of certain countries. I'd like to get your opinion on this because early on when this phenomenon was happening, we saw countries, for example, like Hungary and Austria that had a much tougher stance on accepting these migrants. And that's fine because maybe that was in relation to the political system that was established. But we're seeing this kind of, I don't want to say a trend, but we're seeing this pattern of more, it's not right or left, but it's more extreme politics towards these new immigrants coming in, and that eventually politically it might change the ecosystem of these countries in Europe. Do you think that there's a possibility that this may happen, that we're led into more governments across Europe that have a stricter stance towards these immigrants? We're seeing it recently in Italy as well. how do you think this political context will shift in Europe with respect to these migrants coming in?
Look, those things are normal. So once you have government who are open for this, once you have government that is not open for this, so you cannot find on unity on planet. You are always, you will find some countries who are, I like this, I don't like this, I don't want this. This is like one family, and in family you have different characters, you have different approach, different analyses, different lives, different views, etc., etc. So I will explain on this way. So this is light explanation. I will not go detail because we are not political podcasting. But yes, it is normal. But as a response to this, you saw that European Union do some shifting, and they make some channels, and maybe this is the response, and this is how they are looking. They are sending one message, a message to planet. Yes, we are willing to accept, we want to accept, we will not reject, but there is some rules and procedures. And don't forget that a lot of people who enter even European Union, so they get expelled. So this is another part of the story. A lot of people are getting are sent to their host country. You enter, you pass all those process, you go through those a hard time to enter, and after that they decide that you have enough safety at your host country and you need to go there. So this is my light explanation.
Dusko, do you think that economically or socially these European countries are prepared for these waves of immigrants coming into their country? Do they have the resources necessary to take care of them and to give them what they need in order to assimilate or to integrate?
Well, Europe is too much old continent, what means they need new blood. I will be very Machiavellistic when I will speak, when I will answer your questions. What is the final target? In this moment, Germany needs this kind of new work labor power. Same is situation with the Holland, same situation with Belgium, also with Great Britain. But in the same time, they need to have equivalent of high-level educated migrants, which they will come to their country to follow idea of to cover this progressive technology, because they didn't have enough people which they will cover all these necessary things in progressing economy, which they have, what we have in this part of the Europe. On the second side, poorest country in Europe, they have kind of politically, I will say, kind of national phobia, that the migrants will change the global situation about the official policy in that country. They will change the life in that country. I think the platform of nationalism is kind of platform of not accepting the people, because they already have enough people in their countries. I'm thinking about the Poland, because Poland was so restrictive with this kind of the policy, same like Hungary. And also some countries, they use proxy activity with that migrants. One of the proxy activity was from Belarus against Poland, All these countries, always they looking at their personal interest, the interest of that countries, and always political answering on your question are related with the interest of some countries. Cheap labor is the interest of Germany, but this is not same interest of Poland. Europe are facing now so many different interests. And especially in the policy of energy, you have possibility to see this kind of the diversification of the interests of the some countries and how they will change the situation. But I will say that Europe now the pay for their mistakes in the past, especially in energy policy and especially in this kind of what I would say demographic policy.
Mm-hmm.
And now these things are evident, and now we have possibility to see that. How is possible, for example, when we will speak about energy policy, I make kind of going on the other side, but how is possible one country to have 53% involvement of foreign countries with natural gas in their industry? How is possible? You speak about diversification to the other countries. How is possible for one country to use 53% of natural gas from one country?
Yeah.
That means who doing that? How they doing that? How is possible to doing that? And after that, you want to make total changes, and now you have kind of confusion and interactions in German, political interaction in German, which they will go very soon to the security interactions, and everything what we not facing in the past, now they will come in like a bill in the present time. What always my colleagues, especially Dr. Marius, Dr. Eldar, Dr. Kleantis, and the others, we are always when we are speaking about any kind of the problems, we always mention one thing: security policy, strategic policy is like a film. This is not like photography. Photography means present situation with the present evidence, and not following what was happening in the past and what will happen in the future. What means now we are facing something, but also we need to have knowledge to understand what was in the past and how we will change now. For example, now Europe have opportunity to change this energy policy with some countries, especially like with Emirati, with the other things. But do you know what they want this country from Europe? Long life agreements. This is not interest, because this is not money interest of Europe to have long life agreements. But on the long way, maybe this is the good agreement, because this kind of agreement, for example, have China. China have, in the past, they already have 20 years agreement with Qatar. Now they signed during the football championship agreement for the next 23 years. What was happened with Emirati and Saudi? They have petrol-yuan agreement with China. Something in global policy, what is related with the political issue, needs to be changed, not only in Europe, also in the other countries, and we need to have kind of political economy and security reform in many things in the world.
Interesting. And it opens the door to a much larger discussion that we can have in a later conversation. I want to thank you both for coming on the podcast, Professor Dusko Tomic and Professor Eldar Saljic. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your knowledge. Much appreciated. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And again, one last time, I invite you to go over to strategyinternational.org for all information regarding this global think tank and for different publications. You can follow Dusko and Eldar and everything they do. And all the links are going to be in the description as well. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Take care.